of the world, everybody. We are at Gampel Pavilion for the game of the night in college hoops around the country. It's number 13 Xavier paying a visit to number 19 UConn. Set the table for you here on Big East Shootaround. I'm John Fanton. Coming up on tonight's show, Stadium college hoops insider Jeff Goodman will give his take on the Big East and the job that Shaka Smart has done. Why Shaka and Marquette have made the perfect fit with the Gold Eagles at 8-2 in conference play. Plus, we'll go one-on-one with Sean Miller in just a few moments. He breaks down the keys to the Musketeers' key road swing, which is where we begin with our headlines tonight, everybody. It's Xavier, it's UConn. Top 20 showdown. Now, these two teams heading into their first meeting on New Year's Eve are in very different places as they enter this night. Heading into the New Year's Eve showdown in Cincinnati, UConn was 14-0. They were the cream of the crop, thought to be a legit national title contender. Well, Xavier handed them their first loss that day, 83-73. The Musketeers, thought to be one of the contenders in the Big East, find themselves at the top of the conference heading into tonight at 8-1 in the league. But Xavier has not had to visit UConn. They've yet to visit Creighton. They've yet to visit Marquette. They have not faced Providence. Over the next 3 games, the Musketeers will face some steep challenges. It starts tonight here at UConn, and then on Saturday on CBS against a Creighton team that's 5-3 in the Big East, and then you welcome in Providence next Wednesday. So, can Xavier find that toughness on the road? Can they defend? Because UConn make the Musketeers work for everything they're going to get. Sean Miller looks at it. He's got one of the best offenses in the country. Well over 80 points per game for this Xavier team. They're highly effective on that end. Sule Boom's been at the top of the Big East scoring charts with how great of a lead guard he has been. So can UConn get guard play? Will Tristan Newton step up in this game and provide the boost that UConn needs? Jordan Hawkins, will he knock down shots? And then what happens in the front court matchup? You've got Jack Nungy and Zach Fremantle on one side for the Musketeers. Adama Sano going Donovan Clingan for the Connecticut Huskies. For this Huskies team, they lost 5 of 7. Can they hold serve at home? They haven't been able to get it done on the road. Now at 5-5 in the Big East, the schedule opens up. We'll see how they handle it. Coming up later tonight, you've got 8:30 Eastern Time on FS1, the Providence Friars welcoming in the Butler Bulldogs. Friars rolled to a commanding win at Hinkle Fieldhouse a few weeks back. Here's the deal, folks. You think about Xavier at 8-1, Providence is at 7-2. Marquette is at 8-2. So we could have a 3-way tie by the end of the night in the Big East if UConn was able to knock off the Musketeers here. For Providence, they're trying to stay on pace with those teams at the top, and they do it with Bryce Hopkins. He is a stud, averaging 16 and 9 per game. Hopkins shooting close to 50% from the floor. He has been a versatile weapon for Ed Cooley and fits so well into that system and been able to piece it together, even though they've been missing Jared Bynum. Devin Carter stepping up, and Noah Locke coming off a career-high 29 against DePaul. Let's turn to our third game of the night. It comes your way on CBS Sports Network at 9 Eastern. CHI Health Center Omaha will be rocking a little bit extra this evening because they're giving away dollar beers on Fan Appreciation Night. Steve Lavin, you are on our minds tonight. Even though you're the head coach of the San Diego Toreros, you are on our minds because this is your night, Lav. Dollar beers in Omaha. Creighton welcoming in a St. John's team that, frankly, comes into this game coming off of a tough loss to Villanova. How did the Red Storm respond? Can Mike Anderson be able to capture energy from this team? Creighton has only ever lost one time to St. John's in Omaha. That was back under Chris Mullen. And the Blue Jays, they don't lose to St. John's when they hit 76 points. For Creighton, 2 things. One, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Creighton has been such a dominant team when Kalkbrenner is on the floor. They're 11-6 when they've got him. And then Baylor Shireman. Shireman with 8 double-doubles on the year, and he has led the team in 3-pointers. So let's see what happens tonight as Creighton welcomes in St. John's. But turning back to this game, how do you handle a road test inside Gampel Pavilion? I caught up with Sean Miller this morning, and he gave me his thoughts on this heavyweight clash between UConn and Xavier. The head coach of the first place Xavier Musketeers, who take on UConn, 6:30 Eastern Time, FS1. It's Sean Miller with us. And Sean, what was your message to your team just moments ago to end shoot-around?
Well, John, it's a big game, and I think it's a big game for both teams. It's very, very difficult to win college basketball road games, in particular in the Big East Conference. And I think for us, we know we have to be at our best to have an opportunity to beat what I consider one of the best teams in the country, UConn.
You think about where your team stands at 8-1 in this conference, and now you hit the road. You just talked with your group about the toughness. How much are you looking forward to seeing what this group can possess in these tough road atmospheres?
Well, that's I think the differential of a lot of programs and teams, in the country. It's can you hold serve at home? Not easy to do, but can you actually do that and be able to steal a few here on the road, especially in conference play? But I think the one thing too, John, for us is, at the end of a Big East season, all of us are going to play 10 home games and 10 road games. And there's always pockets of those 20 games that are more difficult than others, and we're in one. But I think it's important for us to keep the thought on us. How hard are we playing? How well are we playing? And if it doesn't go our way, then we bounce back and finish. Because, again, you can't get too – it's like what UConn's gone through. They played a really tough schedule and had a couple games not go their way. Well, guess what? They could win 8 in a row right now. So I think for us not to make this too big of a deal, but understand that to win the game, we're going to have to play really well.
You look at what UConn has and the size of Donovan Clingan and Adama Sanogo. You have some of your own, and Jack Nungy and Zach Fremantle. But you go down and you look at this matchup. Can you overstate the importance of Souley Boum for your team, both on any night, but on this night?
Our guards have to play well. I think when you play on an away court, one stat that's super important is turnovers. You have to be able to be poised and take care of the ball, especially against a team like UConn, because when you turn the ball over against them, it really feeds their three-point shooting and a lot of their team strengths. And Souley's at the front of that. He's been really a good player for us, and I'm confident in him.
Your first time in this building. We talked a lot about fan bases and atmospheres. I mean, at the end of the day, I know you've got a challenge on your hands tonight, but this is what you wanted to get back on the sidelines for, a game like this.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many memories of playing against UConn. I mean, I played against, so many guys that are in the rafters, starting with, Cliff Robinson when I was a freshman, and Chris Smith, who I didn't even realize is the all-time leading scorer, Tate George, Donnie Marshall, Donyell Marshall. So there's so many great players, and Coach Calhoun. And, we were in a regional final a few years back when I was the head coach at Arizona, Kemba in Anaheim, and we had a couple shots to win it. It didn't work, and they went on to win the national championship. So when you think of UConn, I think you think of them in those terms, and obviously Dan Hurley and his staff are doing an amazing job.
All right, last one. Let's take a trip down memory lane and go to your Pittsburgh playing days. It's a special anniversary. 35 years ago, Jerome Lane sent it in. He got a pass as well. What comes to mind?
Yeah, the timing of the pass, I think, was everything. If it's thrown a little later, or how about if I went the other way?
Sure.
No one would be talking about it. But no, Jerome, what an amazing. I think it's the greatest dunk of all time when you consider somebody took a charge on the play, and then Bill Raftery's call, send it in, Jerome. It makes all of us that are older now feel young. And also, let me say this, Jerome Lane. One thing I don't like about the dunk is when you talk about him, you only talk about that play, when in reality, he was an amazing player, all right? So All-American and NBA player. So not only that play, but reward him for the player that he was.
Pavilion, we thank Sean Miller for his time. A big key to this matchup tonight, Xavier's three-point shooting against UConn's elite perimeter defense. Xavier leads the Big East at 40% from three-point territory on the season. UConn leads the Big East with a 27% clip in three-point defense. So, will the Musketeers be able to generate transition opportunities, open floor opportunities? Will their pace be able to rule tonight, or will UConn make this a grinder? And can the Huskies neutralize Souley Boum, who has led Big East Conference in conference play with a 5-to-1 assist-turnover ratio. Boom is playing like a serious Big East Player of the Year candidate. We will get to that race later in the show on the mailbox. Hey, let's go around the Big East. You've got 4 teams ranked in the top 25 with Xavier in there, as well as Marquette at number 16, UConn at number 19, Providence still holding strong in the top 25. That's second most in college basketball. 4 teams in the net top 25, 5 in the net top 40. So the conference in solid shape in terms of NCAA tournament bracketology. You take a look at the standings in the Big East. Think about this, folks. Xavier at 8-1. We're going to find a lot out about the Musketeers and their title hopes this week at UConn and at Creighton. Marquette at 8-2. It's Marquette's best start to conference play since 2018-19. Providence there at 7-2, trying to match Marquette tonight as they welcome in Butler. Folks, don't count out Creighton just yet. I'm telling you, big picture, the Blue Jays have real potential to go on a run. They're 5-3. UConn, Seton Hall at 5-5. Seton Hall on the midweek bye. Let's go around the Big East now. We welcome in Stadium Insider, fill the 68 zone, Jeff Goodman.
It's time for Ask the Expert on Big East Shootaround, and to do that, we welcome in Stadium College Basketball Insider. You can also find him on the field of 68. It is Jeff Goodman joining us
Where's
now.
the expert, Vanna, where the hell's the expert?
we were digging, and we went down to Charleston for this segment this week. Jeff, the game of the night in college basketball Wednesday is Xavier at UConn. Top 20 showdown, 13th ranked Musketeers, 19th ranked Huskies. What do you see in this rematch at Gampel?
Well, I mean, obviously the home team has been pretty successful in the Big East so far, in all these matchups for the most part, other than what, UConn, St. John's, right? Is that the only one?
Pretty much,
that really has worked out against the home team. But home court advantage has been huge so far. I expect it to hold up. But again, you just don't know with this UConn team right now that's pretty fragile. You know, they've lost 5 of 7. Yeah, they got a win. They're coming off a win, a feel-good, I guess, victory against Butler. But everybody's beating Butler these days. You can't put too much stock into that one. You know, Xavier has been so good for the most part, but they haven't played on the road. So this week, obviously, is a huge week for Sean Miller and the Musketeers. They got UConn, then they go to Creighton. They've held court at home for the most part. But again, these home court advantage, it's showing around the country. There's been a lot of home setbacks we've seen it Kansas, we've seen it in Houston, we've seen it at Gonzaga recently. And really, you know, you look at Houston losing at Temple and Gonzaga losing to Loyola Marymount, but not to great teams. So every team's been susceptible to it, and UConn has as well. But most of the Big East teams have held court at home because these atmospheres are so damn good.
Let's focus in on Xavier. They're 16-4. The return of Sean Miller has just reestablished this buzz around Xavier basketball. I think you'd have to agree Xavier feels like Xavier again. And it's really interesting to see how he's taken on guys that he inherited, and in different ways they've all elevated. How compelling of a storyline are the Musketeers and now Miller, who is basically a lock to be returning to March Madness?
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, think about this. I mean, Xavier 0 for 4 in going to the NCAA tournament the last 4 years, which is a remarkable thing when you hear it, right? I mean, because, again, you've got everything you need at Xavier. And Sean Miller took over a team at the right time because Travis Steele, you know, good coach, good guy, but he's not going to light a fire under these guys like Sean is. So Sean comes in and immediately the project is Zach Fremantle, right? That's the main project for him, is trying to get Fremantle to understand, and he has. He's figured out which buttons to push, and Fremantle's not getting away with much right now, and he's playing the best basketball of his career. He's been a killer down low and working well with Jack Nungy and their two bigs. But the difference maker, period, is Sule Boone. He's been, to me, he and Keontae Johnson have been the most impactful transfers in the entire country. And we didn't know it. I mean, Keontae, we didn't know if he'd come back at Kansas State and be the same player after a 2-year layoff. And Sule Boone, nobody knew. Come on, he came from UTEP. everybody thought you cut his numbers in half at UTEP and he'd be a nice piece coming off the bench for Xavier. Instead, he's been their best player. And what he does is he gives Sean Miller two guys, Fana, that you could put the ball in their hands and say, hey, go make a play. They're veteran guards. They're versatile guards. They can make a play for themselves. They can make a play for their teammates. So I think Sule Boom and Kobe Jones are as good as any backcourt duo in the country in terms of their versatility and their all-around play.
Speaking of transformations of a head coach, it has been fascinating to see that in his second season at this place, his team was picked to finish ninth in the Big East Conference. They currently are 8th in KenPom. They have the number 1 offense in the country from an efficiency standpoint. The 16-5, 8-2 in conference play, Marquette Golden Eagles. How has Shaka Smart done this?
Well, again, I mean, he's got an elite level point guard, right? And it starts with Tyler Kolek, right? He sees everything. There aren't a lot of guys like Tyler anymore in college basketball. Everybody's looking to get their own. And what Tyler's doing is just looking to set everybody up, make it easier for everybody else. And who wouldn't want to play with that guy? So, like, to me, again, your offense is going to flow because now you need dudes around him, right? You need guys like Cam Jones around him that can make shots. But, you know, Shaka's done an incredible job. I think Shaka's pretty appreciative of almost everything he's gotten throughout his career. But I think now even more so as you get a little bit older, you appreciate, hey, you know what? This is a place I might be able to stay forever because it's in the Midwest. It fits me. And again, the resources there, they want to win so badly at Marquette that they'll do anything to help Shaka.
Are you still in big picture on Creighton?
Yeah, 100%. Now, again, I don't love how they're constructed. I wish they had one more shooter for McDermott. It's just baffling to watch this team sometimes, and they have like one shooter in Baylor Shireman. But yeah, I mean, listen, they lost those 6 games.
Yeah.
Two of them were against really good teams. 3 of them were without Kalkbrenner, and the other one was basically not having Kalkbrenner against Nebraska because he was sick. You could tell. So I don't want to throw that whole 6-game losing streak out, but I'll throw a few of those out the window and say that Creighton to me is maybe not as good as I had them. Preseason, I think I had them 4. Yep. They're not the 4th best team, but they're in the top 25, and I would not want to play them come March because, again, if they are making some shots, man, they're going to be tough to beat. And again, they don't have the depth, but in the NCAA tournament, with all those timeouts, as long as they're healthy, you don't need a whole lot of depth.
We thank Jeff Goodman for his time. Welcome back to Big East Shootaround, everybody. Inside Gampel Pavilion, we're in stores ahead of number 13 Xavier, number 19 UConn, coming your way 6:30 Eastern Time on FS1 with Tim Brando and Jim Spinarkle. All right, let's turn to a great storyline in college basketball this season. The Marquette Golden Eagles. What a year this team is having. Think about the fact that they are 8-2. 8-2 in conference play. That's their best start to conference play since 2018-19. For them to be at 16-4 on the season, it's really amazing what Shaka has been able to do. You look at what they've done offensively. They're 4th in the country in field goal percentage. They have the best offense, according to Ken Pomeroy, in America. The number 1 adjusted offensive efficiency rating in the country. That is shocking. It's amazing what Shaka Smart has been able to do. And Cam Jones is a bucket getter. Jones, Big East Player of the Week, combined for 42 points last week in 2 victories. Tyler Kolek is a high-level point guard. And when you look at this Marquette team, folks, they really are a collective unit. The development of Olivier Maxence Prosper, David Joplin, Oso Gadaro, it's been player development. It's been Shaka Smart getting his guys to buy into what they're putting down, and an offense that has been electrifying to watch. Marquette at 8-2. If you look at KenPom, because they've gone on the road to a bunch of marquee opponents and have been able to put together results, just those 2 losses at Xavier and at Providence. And they will be back in action this weekend on the midweek bye before they take on DePaul. So let's set it up here. Let's open it up. The Big East mailbox. We asked you for questions. Now we supply some answers. Let me pull up what we've got here in the mailbox. All right. First question coming in from Will Geiger. Will asks, which Big East team is set for a deep run during March? Interesting question, Will, because I think there's arguments for a couple. There's a reason why there's 4 top 25 teams, but here's my vote. Do not count out Creighton. Do not count them out. Just because the Blue Jays have been a little bit up and down here, they went through a rough patch. Now that they've got their full complement of players, Ryan Kalkbrenner is a dominant force, and if Ryan Nembhard and Trey Alexander are in sync and Arthur Kaluma just plays in himself, Shireman has been a welcome addition to this team. Creighton, to me, has the equation to make a push towards March. You've seen them win back-to-back games. They go for 3 in a row tonight against St. John's. They're through the gauntlet of road games on their Big East schedule. Look for Creighton to make a push and look for them to get back to what we thought they would be in the preseason. We thought this team, win the Big East, could make a deep March run. I am still bought in on Creighton and who they are. Do not sell them. Question number 2. David Pincino asks, who is the current Big East Player of the Year? I'm a Providence fan, and Soriano is a monster. He is, nation's leader in double-doubles. Is he not getting the love he deserves because of where St. John's is in the standings? Well, David, yes, Soriano's not getting as much attention because of where St. John's is in the standings, but he deserves more attention. He deserves to be an all-Big East first-team player. I mean, that's the way that he's playing, and we'll get to that in a second. To me right now, the Player of the Year in this conference today is Bryce Hopkins. He's a force to be reckoned with in Providence. He's averaging about 17 and 10 per game. He is a nightmare matchup for the Friars, and he sets the tone for the game in and game out. He can get his, he can go back to the basket, he can shoot it, he's a playmaker. And I think that if Ed Cooley's team is going to go on a magical run at the Garden in the Big East tournament, off of this strong season, they're 7-2, the reason for it will be Bryce Hopkins. Bryce Hopkins, to me, is such a high-level talent. I think Sule Boom is making a case for himself. It's between Boom, it's between Hopkins. There surely is a race to think about. Question number 3. Give us your all Big East first team projections today. All right. This comes in from Friar Express. So I'm going to go with Tyler Kolek at Marquette, one of the nation's assist leaders. Love Kolek and love the way that he initiates for those Golden Eagles. So Tyler Kolek at Marquette. Bryce Hopkins at Providence is on the first team. Sule Boom at Xavier, high-level bucket getter. The way that Boom has come into the Musketeers and made such a high impact, nobody could have seen it coming, averaging around 16 points per game, over 4 assists per game. He has been so solid. He's going to need to be great tonight. The fact is, UConn doesn't have a guard quite as good as Boom. If Xavier wins this game, it's because Sule Boom wins it for them. So he would be third. Joel Soriano's fourth at St. John's, nation's leader in double-doubles. I got to give him a first-team nod. He has earned it, and I believe Soriano is a first-team caliber player. He's played like it throughout the season. And Adama Sanogo at UConn. At the end of the day, with Adama Sanogo, his numbers, his productivity, his physicality is too much to pass on. I'm still placing Mr. Sanogo on the All-Big East first team. I put Jordan Hawkins right behind him on that second team, but Sanogo completes the first team. So Sanogo, Hopkins, Soriano, Boom, and Kolek. No Villanova players. It's very weird saying that here, but that's the way that this season has gone. Hey, before we let you go, a shout-out to the voice of Georgetown Hoyas, Rich Shavakian, who's going to be honored by the NSMA this upcoming summer for being an amazing team voice for close to 5 decades of the Hoyas, and a shout-out to Georgetown. They got a Big East Conference win last night over DePaul. They'll next be in action Sunday on FS1 at 2 Eastern Time inside the world's most famous arena as they take on St. John. You looked at the standings, folks. Xavier at 8-1. They're at the top. They can show that they're more than just a home team. Can they show it here on the road here tonight? Providence currently sitting at 7-2, trying to keep it on track with Marquette, and Marquette at 8-2. The Golden Eagles They'll be watching on the couch tonight, and we hope you will be too. 6:30 at UConn and Xavier, at 8:30 Providence and Butler, at 9 o'clock over on CBS Sports Network at St. John's at Creighton. Thanks to Sean Miller for joining us. Thanks to Jeff Goodman as well. I'm John Fanta. We'll talk to you after the game. Follow us all night at Big East MBB. This has been Shoot Around.